Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
I didn't snort it started off. Oh my goodness. Okay, so did you know that the new car smell is the scent of dozens of chemicals?
I love it.
I know, right? Everybody goes, what smell you want? New car smell.
Yeah,
New car
every
smell.
time I go.
It's actually a mixture of 50 plus chemicals. It's not like dangerous, but it's some of the chemicals in that's like nail polish, auto fuel, and petroleum.
It's glorious.
And it smells good.
It does smell good. I had something on the tip of my tongue and I pointed to my head. Y'all, I need a nap. What was I going to say? If y'all could only hear our conversations before we go live, seriously, you would not view us in the same light.
Yeah, today was a doozy. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to tell you a funny little story before we get started. So yesterday, I took Sarah Rose, my youngest. We got a haircut. She and I went out to dinner, ran my aunt some food to the hospital, went to the mall. And I always love it when people challenge my kids about music because, you know, the in thing now is to wear Pink Floyd shirts, right? You can buy them everywhere. So you see a lot of kids wearing Pink Floyd shirts. And so this guy looks at Sarah Rose yesterday while we're waiting in line at Forever 21. And he said, bet you can't name 5 Pink Floyd songs. And she looks at me and winks. She's like, well, which album? She said, because if you want to go for the wall, I would say my favorite's Hey You, or maybe Comfortably Numb. She said, although I do like Waiting for the Worms, which isn't and he's like, well, what's your favorite instrumental? And she's like, well, Shine On You Crazy Diamond's instrumental for like 12 minutes before the lyrics start. But she said, if you put my feet to the fire, I would probably say One of These Days. And the guy's like, okay, touche, kiddo. And so anyways, when we pay and walk off, we high five because
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yes, yes, yes. So we want to give a big thank you to one of our sponsors, Two Cool T-shirt quilts. If you look behind me, if you're on YouTube watching, you can see my awesome Clemson pillow and then the Pretty Lies, or get you a quilt. We have both. They are amazing. So go to twocooltshirtquilts.com/pretty lies and alibis. She will know we sent you and you can be happy. We're going to have another giveaway at the end of this month.
Yep.
We're going to go live.
That's right.
We're having fun with the lives. We're going to definitely try to do 1 or 2 a month.
Oh, yeah. I love them.
I do too. They're fun. It's just nice to interact with everybody in real time. And we do on social media. Although if you sent me a message on Twitter or something, I'm sorry. Like I've been crazy busy and I'm way behind. And I got a couple of stickers to send to some people. We want to give a big thank you to Diane for the PayPal donation today. Thank you so much, Diane. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Diane.
And anyways, so we decided not to do a daily coverage of the Curtis Reeves trial. This is the retired police captain in Florida who 8 years ago shot and killed a fellow moviegoer after there was a little altercation and some popcorn was thrown. This case is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to kind of start from the beginning of the week and just summarize. We're going to do this every few days. I'm very interested in this verdict, but following it right now is hard for me with everything going on in my life. So we're just going to summarize. One interesting thing in Florida, if you're not charged with a capital case, you have 6 jurors instead of 12.
Wow.
Which I guess is maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, I guess it's good because it's probably easier to get 6 people to agree. But anyways, so he's charged with second-degree murder. There are 4 alternate jurors right now. So he's 79 years old currently, and he has spent most of the last 8 years under house arrest. I don't understand why it took 8 years. How does a court allow a case that's not even a capital case to go 8 years?
Yeah, and that's why some of the testimonies like, can I refer to the notes?
Yeah.
I would be like, "Can I just read from the notes? Because
I
I have
can't tell
no
you what I
clue."
did 8 days ago, much less 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because on the first day of testimony, several of the detectives have retired for years since this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So, the victim, Chad Olson, he was a Navy veteran, and originally, Curtis's attorney argued self-defense on stand your ground, but they were not successful in that.
Yeah.
So, in the opening statements, this happened on January 13th, 2014, and it says the defendant acted with ill will, bitterness, spite, and annoyance. So, what happened was Chad and his wife had decided to put their daughter in daycare just to spend the day together. And they went to see Lone Survivor at a movie theater. And Chad and Nicole chose to sit on the next to the last row. And the theater, from what I understand, was mainly empty. And Chad goes to get snacks. And when he comes back and sits down, the defendant and his wife come in and sit on the very last row right behind him. So the theater actually has two cameras inside that captured the shooting. And you'll hear that the shooting happened during the movie previews and it wasn't dark like when the movie starts. So the previews start and there's a message to turn your cell phones off. And Chad had his phone on, but he wasn't talking. But almost immediately after the message, Curtis leans into Chad's personal space and says, "Turn your cell phone off." Well, Chad doesn't turn it off. And that's not a reason to kill him. So Curtis asked again, and then he got up to leave the theater to tell the manager. And he was muttering. The witnesses around said he was muttering to himself and he was super agitated.
Here's the deal, like, when I go out somewhere, I'm not if somebody's doing something, that's their little red wagon.
Look, here's my whole point about this case. The theater was not at capacity. If Reeves had such a problem, because I do it during previews. I'm sorry, I do lower my screen brightness, but I'm very guilty of doing this. Get up and move your seat if it bothers you that much.
Yeah.
As somebody who is an ex-police captain who worked homicide should be a professional in de-escalating situations before they become a problem,
Yeah.
and he didn't. So, why don't you pick up here, Fruit Loop?
At the manager's desk, you will see his demeanor, you watch his body language. He's there for around 3 minutes and walks back to the theater. Witnesses will tell you he had no disability. He parked 133 yards away from the theater. Curtis tells investigators in his tape statement he has arthritis in his knees. There's no reason to shoot and kill someone. In his statement, he sorry, excuse me. In his statement, he says he reinitiated contact with Chad. Chad did turn off his cell, and it was off when Curtis came back. Chad is in his seat. Curtis said, "I told the manager for no reason. I see you turned your phone off." Chad turns around in his seat and has words with Curtis. He tells him to leave him alone. In his statement, pay attention to how he words this. You good?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sherlock was meowing at the door, so I went up to get him, and he disappeared because I didn't come quick enough.
So Chad stands up and continues talking to Curtis. He says, "If it's any of your business, I was texting my daughter. Evidence will show he was on Facebook. You can't shoot someone for that." And yeah, I mean,
And these are opening statements, so this is how the state presented it to the jury.
yeah. So Chad reaches over with his right hand into the lap and grabs a bag of popcorn and flicks it at the defendant. I mean, all this stuff is I don't know. I mean,
I mean, look,
you can't take somebody's life.
right, and I will be the first to say, should Chad have thrown popcorn at this man? No, but I mean, popcorn doesn't kill you.
Yeah. This goes along with my parents always told us when we were growing up. And I mean, we've not been young in a long time, but
You hush up.
you don't you don't mess with anybody and you don't like do anything to somebody else because they could have a weapon and they could harm you. Just like playing, we used to mess around people in cars and stuff. And my dad would be like, "You better not do that stuff. You don't know who's got a gun."
I mean,
Um,
it's true though.
yeah,
I mean, look,
yeah,
Until we started this podcast, I was kind of notorious for giving the one finger salute if somebody ticked me off in traffic. It's just a thing with me. But I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, it's not worth it.
No.
People, I used to brake check people that would be on my tail, but I mean, it's not worth my life these days.
No.
People are, I feel vulnerable going to the Harris Teeter now.
You go to Harris Teeter?
Yeah, I go to Harris Teeter.
I ain't never been there.
That is not a paid promotion either.
Harris Teeter.
I
Never
wish we had
been
a
there.
Piggly Wiggly up here.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, I go to the Piggly Wiggly in Alabama just to get some sauce. So
Yeah, I'm big on the pig.
yeah, I want one of those shirts. I dig the pig.
I got one. I got two.
I just look, when God made the pig, He knew exactly what He was doing.
Yes, he did. I mean, they're
Perfect.
cute and all, but dude, I will
Perfect.
devour some bacon.
Bacon, barbecue. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So back to the podcast. So his hand is coming back. His wife is sitting in front of Curtis. She is trying to get Chad to sit down. Her hand is up. Curtis then shoots. Her hand is struck. This made me hurt.
Yeah.
Her hand is struck and her finger is almost severed. In the video, you will see him reach for the gun, lunge forward, and shoot Chad. He isn't cowering in fear, and he quickly gets the gun out. Chad stumbles. He goes toward the aisle. He is shot in the chest and falls down.
I think I have it somewhere down here, but I think the last thing he said was like, I can't believe he shot me.
Yeah.
So an off-duty deputy was in the theater and he gets up and walks over to Curtis and takes the gun. The firearm was working properly. It wasn't accidental. It was absolutely intentional, according to the prosecutors. So they hand out these blank forms to witnesses and they're told to write down what they know. They're not instructed how to fill it out. So Curtis's video statement isn't accurate as to what happened. It's now time to feature our paid advertiser for this week, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is ready to help you achieve your goals and help you create a happier, healthier life.
BetterHelp is an online service that will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You are able to then connect in a safe and private online environment that is convenient and simple to use.
You're right, Fruit Loop. BetterHelp website is easy to use and you can get started with them today. Keep in mind, BetterHelp is not a crisis line or a self-help line. It is a professional counseling service that is done securely online. You can get the help you need easily from the comfort of your home.
And that's what I love about BetterHelp. I also love that the counselors that you are able to meet, they're specialized in so many different areas, from depression and anxiety to relationships and sleeping to grief and trauma. BetterHelp is ready to help you in those areas and so many more.
And the reviews on the website are awesome to check out. People are raving about BetterHelp. One person said that the therapist's kindness and promptness was greatly appreciated and that she truly showed genuine concern for her client. Another stated that the therapist actively listened and compassionately responded in regards to the client's recent loss of her mother. You can tell the people that have used BetterHelp are glad that they did.
That's awesome. That's what we want for our listeners too. We want you guys to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/whattheworld. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/whattheworld.
Curtis says he saw Chad with his phone on, leans forward and nicely asks him to turn it off. And then he went to the manager. He comes back and says Chad turned around in his seat. They have words. Chad comes over on top of him. And later he says when Chad jumped up, the popcorn fell immediately and he took out his gun and killed him. So Curtis said he had his hands up saying, no, no, no. Ex-law enforcement, doing that self-defense thing. And he's backing up and Chad is virtually on top of him, according to Curtis, and says he's on his lap and he has to pull out the firearm and kill him. I said firearm. Lord Jesus is a far.
It's a far.
Oh. And the prosecutor said nobody's going to testify that that's what happened. You'll hear about stippling, and there was some on Nicole's hand and Chad's wrist. There was none on the defendant's left hand where he said he had his hand out. After he shot, witnesses here throw popcorn at me. In other words, kind of like throw popcorn at me. That's what's going to happen. It's kind of how I took it. And the prosecution says that's ill will and spite. Curtis says he struck on the side of his face by Chad, and witnesses never saw that. And they will show scientifically that it isn't possible with Chad sitting where he was. He said he was dazed, but there was no visible injury. He said a cell phone was at play and Chad's phone was in front of Curtis. He said it got there because Chad was shot and it was dropped, or he dropped it when he threw the popcorn. The cell phone was analyzed. Chad's DNA was on the phone, but not Curtis. They said he had a red left eyelid, but witnesses say he was rubbing his eye and saying something was in it, which was rinsed by EMS. In the police cruiser, Curtis says he second guessed himself about the shooting and if Chad had hit him, and he said, "Oh crap, this is stupid."
So, aggravated battery. He unlawfully struck Nicole with a gun as she put her hand up to protect her husband. That made me hurt, dude.
Oh man, yeah.
Like, Curtis is saying it was self-defense. That means Curtis reasonably believes the force was necessary to prevent imminent death or bodily harm. To justify the use of deadly force, the circumstances of danger must be so real and can only be used through the use of force. Would a reasonably cautious person who was able to walk all over with no problems, 20 years of experience on the police force, could believe shooting him was the only way to save his own life? Curtis brought a loaded gun into a theater and killed someone because popcorn was tossed at him. Has his wife testified yet?
She is on the witness list, but they took her out of the courtroom, but I think she's back now. So I don't know if they're not going to call her or why they allowed her to stay in there, but apparently she's on the list.
Yeah. Because that ooh.
Right. So the defense has their openings, and essentially, in a nutshell, they say he's elderly and he's helpless. They allege if the iPhone case was properly preserved, they may find Reeves's DNA on there, and the report says that he's excluded as a source of DNA. I mean, here's my thing. He's saying that Chad threw the phone at him. Who's going to throw their phone at somebody? That just means you're going to shatter your glass and have to go buy a new phone. I don't think that anybody's going to throw their phone at somebody in this situation, and you don't see it on the surveillance. And it says you're going to see how the defense says you're going to see how close Chad and Curtis were, and they say the prosecution says it's over popcorn, but the defense says he protected himself and his wife. So they go through all of the things that are good about him, which is a 27-year police veteran, highly decorated. At one point, the higher powers in that force came to him and said they wanted him to start a SWAT team. That's the training of the man in the theater. They say he was a superstar from patrol to homicide. He knows about danger and knows what a fist can do to someone. When he retires, he was recruited by Busch Gardens as head of security. And they say you'll see a list of the courses he took, and he knows how to assess risk and spot danger. And they say in the theater was no different. They say it isn't over popcorn. You'll see where an attack before the popcorn was thrown. And they say, put yourself in Mr. Reeves' seat.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
So his body starts to break down and he retires from Busch Gardens in 2014. The state says he walks fine. Several witnesses will tell you about his physical conditions. His son will tell you about his deteriorating health. His daughter, Jennifer, will testify the same. We're going to see his degenerative x-rays. When you age, your brain shrinks, showing you're more vulnerable to brain injury. They go into witnesses who were in the theater at the time of the shooting testified. Witness Charles Cummings says he heard Reeves say something to Chad about his cell phone and then saw Reeves leave the theater. He was mumbling to himself and sounded very agitated. He said he never saw Chad act aggressively. He remembers seeing popcorn flying in the air, and then he heard the gunshot, followed by Chad saying, "I can't believe he shot me." Another witness, Jane Roy, found it hard to recall what she said 8 years ago when this happened. She said Reeves reminded her of Grumpy from Snow White and said he looked angry. What is that song they sing?
Whistle while you work.
That's it. Yeah. His wife testified yesterday. Also, she nearly lost a finger. This is Chad's wife.
And this is also earlier in the week because I've just been keeping up with it. So if I say yesterday, it's not
It was
necessarily.
earlier.
It
Yeah.
was earlier in the week. Sorry, y'all.
Reeves shot Chad from putting her hand up to shield her husband. She said when Reeves confronted him about the phone, Chad asked what his problem was and said the movie hasn't even started yet.
You know, we had a listener on Twitter, and I had forgotten about this. That movie, You Got Mail, Greg Kinnear's in a theater, and somebody says something to him, and he's like, "Do you really need to hear what the hot dog has to say? The dancing hot dog has to say in
Yeah.
the previews?" And I mean, it's kind of true. It's like I
Yeah.
can understand if you're in the middle of the movie and somebody's got their screen on bright, then maybe you say something nicely or move your seat if that's an option.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
mm.
So forensic investigators testified, and the defense questioned if their handling of the evidence destroyed evidence on Chad's phone, since Reeves alleges that Chad threw his phone at him. None of the eyewitnesses back that claim up from what we've seen so far. The medical examiner said Chad had a bullet wound on the left side of his chest and a graze wound on his right wrist. The wounds had stippling. The defense argues that Chad threw his cell phone at Reeves, but again, nobody can say if that happened or not. They played Reeves' interview, and he showed no emotion. So I'm leaning back in my chair, and I've got nowhere to go. So I'm leaning back in my chair, and he kept on hollering, and I'm not sure what he said, to be honest with you, is what Reeves said.
Yeah.
In the interview, Reeves said he should have just changed seats. Two different witnesses who heard Curtis Reeves say, "Teach you to throw popcorn at me."
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, just from what I've seen, this is not self-defense. This is a temper problem.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Other people have said when this shooting happened and his face was on the news, other people came forward and said they had the same issue with him in a movie theater. Maybe this dude needs to wait till stuff comes on streaming.
Dude, that's crazy.
I mean, it's,
You
it's like,
can't control what other people do.
no. And if you let it bother you that much, it's like, you don't need to be in public if you can't handle somebody being on their phone. It's 2022. Everybody's on their phone. My grandma's 87, always on her phone.
Yeah, she really is.
She is. She loves Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram. So that's kind of, I mean, I haven't really got to go over what happened today. So early in next week, we'll do today, tomorrow, and probably Monday and see what happens. It's not something that I really wanted to follow daily, but I am very interested in this verdict. It can
Yeah.
go one of two ways. You're going to see people, either they're going to see that this is a retired police captain, 20 something years on the force, who should have known how to not let it get to murder.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have people who are going to blame this dead man for throwing some popcorn and getting shot.
Yeah.
And
I think
just don't see it.
yeah, what the defense is going to try, from what I watched a little bit today, they're trying to just poke holes in like how the investigation was handled and all that. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. It's an interesting case. Next week, we're going to look at a couple of different trials that are going to be starting. One is a nurse that is accused of killing a ton of patients with fentanyl overdoses. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's, every profession has bad seeds. I don't care if it's physicians, teachers, law enforcement, every profession has bad seeds. And it's just amazing to think that somebody trusted with saving lives was taking lives. But this isn't the first case like this. I've seen cases in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I have
insane,
to.
man. We're at the mercy of crazy people in this world. It's a scary thought.
That's why I'll stay in my house.
Heck yeah, I'm a
And I
hermit
ain't
these
going
days.
to the movies. I ain't going to the movies. We went to the movies the other week. It cost all of us like $50.
It's crazy, but I'm gonna tell you, ever since I sat in the theater shooter trial, every time I go in a theater, I always look for an exit, and it is just automatic now. And it's sad that we live in that world. My youngest, she's in 5th grade, and they're doing this big drill where they're acting like there is going to be an active shooter.
Yeah.
When we were in high school, I think the guys had shotguns on racks in their trucks in the parking lot.
Yeah. All we did was tornado drills.
I
And I'm
know,
gonna
duck and
say,
cover.
I'm gonna say that was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable.
You had to get in the hallway, like, that floor hurt your knees or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different world. It's scary, man.
I
There's
think
so
that's
many
why my bones ache. It was
there
all
ain't
them
nothing wrong with
tornado
your
drills.
bones ache because we played softball entirely too long.
Then my bones ache because them tornado drills as a kid. I knew it.
It's funny because the last time we played, I have pictures from that. I should post it. We're both in knee braces, and like when we hit the ball, we just trot to the
Oh,
base.
I don't run.
It's not even running with purpose anymore.
I ain't
It's
running.
you just feel good you hit the ball. It's like I
I
still
can
got
I
it.
can get a I can get a I can leg out a double, but I'm just jogging. I ain't running.
But shoot, when my knee as bad as it is, I look like I'm running to the bathroom when I
Hey,
run
you
now.
remember that one game we went to play? You stepped in the hole before we even started, twisted your ankle.
I know.
We ain't even started a game yet. You over there hobbling because you stepped in a hole.
You just hush. You know my knee.
Oh, Lord. All
Oh
right.
my gosh. All
That's
right,
it.
guys. We are going to have a second quick episode for you. We're just one behind this week. We got a local case, Alexis Ware, a local 29-year-old woman who's been missing since January 30th. It's kind of close to home. I mean, I know people that know her. And
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about that little Murdaugh update and a quick thing about Harmony Montgomery. So we will see you guys in a few. Bye.